Chapter 601 The Corpse-Driving Faction. Part 2. Xiandao was comprehending the laws of true immortality, while Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia were cautiously fleeing. Unfortunately, a vast net of traps swept in, covering the area from Beihe to Yunfu. Within this area, the escape routes of Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia are easily discovered. The Northern Loch Emperor used the power of the Celestial Court and quickly found out the route of Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia, and surrounded and intercepted them, forcing them into a precarious situation. During this period, the Jin family, represented by Jin Yu, also got involved. Led by Jin Yu, the Jin family members hunted down Yun Tianxia and Tian Guangming. This made things even worse for Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia's future. On a precipice, Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia hid, looking extremely disheveled, their bodies stained with drops of blood, the blood of a group of enemies they had just encountered. The two of them had joined forces to kill more than a dozen imperial guards at the true immortal realm, but in doing so, they had also exposed their location. Then, Jin Yu arrived with the Jin family and began a large-scale manhunt for them. Now, having finally managed to escape the Jin family, they're hiding here in a sorry state. Damn it, this bitch, she really wants me dead. Yun Tianxia cursed angrily, extremely angry. Even a day as husband and wife is 100 days of kindness, and they are still engaged, yet she is so cold and heartless, which makes Yun Tianxia furious. What do we do now? Tian Guangming frowned. He had just fought with Jin Yu, and Jin Yu was really strong, which made him feel a lot of pressure. The route to Yun Mansion is definitely blocked, and it's the Northern Loch Emperor who's blocking us. We can't go back now. There are blockades ahead and pursuers behind. There's only one way out, Yun Tianxia said through gritted teeth. Tian Guangming immediately said, we must put ourselves in a desperate situation to survive. Yes, since our path forward is blocked, we have no choice but to fight to the death, Yun Tianxia said fiercely. Let's turn around and fight back, Yun Tianxia said through gritted teeth. Tian Guangming frowned and said, now, the people chasing us are the Northern Loch Emperor and the Jin family. Putting aside everything else, Jin Yu alone is enough for us to deal with. She is a celestial immortal. The celestial immortal realm is different from the true immortal realm. The true immortal realm is the first step for immortals and is extremely powerful compared to the celestial fate realm. Similarly, the celestial immortal realm is extremely powerful, incomparably powerful, to those in the true immortal realm. Even if Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia, one having obtained the divine status of the goddess of light and the other the divine status of the sea god, joined forces, it would still be quite difficult for them to defeat Jin Yu. Not to mention other true immortals, who have no ability to resist in front of celestial immortals. In the northern underworld, having a celestial immortal in charge is equivalent to having a trump card. As long as they don't cause trouble, they can continue to exist for a long time. For a true immortal to break through to the celestial immortal realm is extremely difficult. Many true immortals at the 9th level are stuck at the threshold of the celestial immortal realm, unable to break through, and are extremely frustrated. Yun Tianxia sneered, I know Jin Yu is very powerful, but as long as we lure him in well and set up a large formation in advance, killing them will be no problem at all. Tian Guangming's eyes lit up. Wasn't this just like the Heavenly Pool Elder and the others, who had set up a grand formation in advance in the 9 heavens and 10 earths, then lured the immortals down to ambush and kill them? Good idea, but where should such a large formation be set up? Tian Guangming asked. This arrangement is poor and could easily be discovered. Moreover, Jin Yu is at the celestial immortal realm, so his observation skills are naturally superior to theirs. They knew nothing about Tian Guangming of the northern underworld, so they could only rely on Yun Tianxia. Yun Tianxia thought for a moment, then suddenly had a flash of inspiration and excitedly said, I know a place I can take you there. Where? Tian Guangming asked in surprise. The former headquarters of the corpse-driving sect, the road to the underworld, Yun Tianxia said. The corpse-driving sect. Tian Guangming looked at Yun Tianxia in surprise. Yes, it was once a very powerful organization. Before the Celestial Court arrived, the northern underworld was ruled by the corpse-driving sect. This sect would specialize in collecting the corpses of powerful immortals, using formations to refine and cultivate them, giving birth to new intelligence and making them corpse kings. They were not afraid of damage, had no feelings, and were complete killing machines, Yun Tianxia explained. Is it that amazing? Tian Guangming asked in surprise. That's how powerful it is, Yun Tianxia said firmly. Then how did they get wiped out and become the former corpse-driving sect? Tian Guangming asked in confusion. Because they were too unscrupulous. One of the great strengths of the corpse-driving sect was the corpses of immortals. The more powerful the immortal was before death, the greater the value of their corpse after death. In order to obtain these corpses, the corpse-driving sect did many heinous things. Digging up graves was commonplace. They even dug up the corpses of immortals who had been dead for hundreds of thousands or millions of years, and then used their methods to refine the corpses. This is also the reason why they were wiped out by the Celestial Court, Yun Tianxia explained in detail. This has indeed offended many people. Nobody wants their elders or seniors to have their bodies stolen and used for corpse refining and desecration after their death. Tian Guangming nodded. So after the Celestial Court destroyed the corpse-driving sect, it naturally took over the northern underworld region without any objection. The corpse-driving sect's ruins have long been abandoned, but because the place is too mean and has countless corpses buried there, no one dares to go, so it has been abandoned there, Yun Tianxia said. This seems like an excellent location, Tian Guangming said, his eyes lighting up. Yes, only heavy energy can conceal the formation we need to set up. Yun Tianxia nodded. Have you thought about setting up any kind of formation? Tian Guangming asked. Have you ever thought about it? Have you heard of the Great Annihilation Formation? Yun Tianxia asked with a sneer. No. Tian Guangming shook his head decisively and asked, Is it impressive? Of course. The Great Annihilation Formation is a famous formation in the immortal realm. It was created by Emperor Gaochen. Back then, Emperor Gaochen had a falling out with the Immortal Court and disappeared without a trace. His subordinates used this formation to resist the Immortal Court's attack, which caused 1,000 domains to rebel. Yun Tianxia explained. Setting up such a large formation must require a lot of materials. Where did you get them from? Tian Guangming asked. I don't need to set up such a large setup. The people we're dealing with are at the celestial immortal level, so reducing the power by 1,000 times will be enough. Besides, I may lack many things, but I certainly don't lack resources. Yun Tianxia smiled smugly, his words exuding a sense of pride. Let's go then. I'll help you set up this grand formation. Let's pull off a big heist and kill as many people as possible, Tian Guangming exclaimed excitedly. Yun Tianxia's statement meant that everything was ready except for the final push. They had been hunted down so badly that they wanted to take revenge. Come on, I'll take you to set up the formation, and then we'll kill a lot more bastards, Yun Tianxia said coldly. Chapter 602 Sending You to the Yellow Springs. Part 3. Tian Guangming followed Yun Tianxia straight to the Yellow Springs Road of the corpse-driving sect. On the way, Yun Tianxia told Tian Guangming, This place is called the Yellow Springs Road because it used to be the place where the corpse-driving sect refined corpses. It is very gloomy and terrifying. Many people say that there are still some terrifying beings buried deep in the Yellow Springs Road in the corpse-driving sect. We cannot easily provoke them. Should we still go? Tian Guangming stopped in his tracks, looking worried. Don't worry, we'll just set up an array on the outer perimeter. As long as we don't go deep inside, it won't have any impact, Yun Tianxia assured him. Besides, we are in a very dangerous situation right now. If we are discovered, our chances of survival are slim, and there are very few people who can save us. If we really need our master to take action, wouldn't that make us look too useless? Yun Tianxia said. After thinking it over carefully, Tian Guangming said, You're right. If you can handle things yourself, don't bother your master. So let's go. Yun Tianxia pulled Tian Guangming along, heading towards the road to the underworld. The road to the underworld is a vast expanse of land, tinged with yellow, with white cherry blossom trees lining the way. The wind and rain scatter the cherry blossoms, making them flutter and drift all around. It was very quiet here. It had just rained when they arrived, and the soil was a bit muddy. The surrounding area was filled with a heavy Yin energy. Even a true immortal could clearly feel that the Yin energy was a bit excessive, as if something big was about to happen. What's worse, the rain intensified, washing away the yellow earth and exposing some bodies buried underground. You can see a hand, half a face, or a leg appearing on the ground. These images are terrifying, with some even showing the ground bleeding, truly horrifying, almost like supernatural scenes. Tian Guangming, his mouth dry, asked, "Is this the outer perimeter? Is the surrounding area really that terrifying?" "Yes, this is the outer perimeter. Don't be afraid. These are all dead people. Moreover, the corpse-driving sect has been gone for almost 50,000 years. If something had happened, it would have been a problem long ago." Yun Tianxia was also uneasy, but he remained confident on the surface, busy with his own affairs, meticulous in every detail. "Since we're already here, why scare ourselves away with these things? I saw my father bring back a copy of the Great Annihilation Formation many years ago. I remember it so vividly that I haven't forgotten it to this day. I'll tell you what to do now, and we'll begin without wasting any time." Yun Tianxia began to arrange things. "Okay." Tian Guangming nodded. The two began working on the outskirts of the road to the underworld, drawing lines to create a prison, inscribing restrictions, guiding the earth's veins, setting up array flags, and drawing upon the primordial energy of heaven and earth, and so on. Setting up these things was quite troublesome, taking a full 7 days, and the two of them were extremely busy. 7 days later, the Great Destruction Formation, reduced in power by 1,000 times, finally took shape. In their eyes, the formation was full of murderous intent, but because it was shrouded in Yin energy on the road to the underworld, it was not so easy to spot. During these 7 days, the two of them stayed on the outskirts and got used to everything around them. When they saw part of the corpse sticking out of the ground, they buried it themselves. There's nothing else particularly noteworthy, except for the intense Yin energy and the eerie atmosphere at night, which is quite frightening. The Great Annihilation Formation is set up. Next, we need to lure our guests here. Yun Tianxia looked at the large area where he had set up the formation and chuckled. Yes, they've worked hard for these 7 days. It's time for them to have a taste. Tian Guangming sneered. "I reckon they're already searching for us like crazy outside, a massive, all-encompassing search," Yun Tianxia guessed. "Definitely, now we only have Mount Hua as our path. The outside is definitely completely blocked, all the exits are shut down. Not even a fly could get to the Yun residence," Tian Guangming said. "It's all right. This great cataclysm is very powerful. Let's split up immediately and start luring people here. The more people we lure, the more likely we are to win," Yun Tianxia said. "Okay, I'll go to the east," Tian Guangming nodded. "Then I'll go to the west," Yun Tianxia said, pointing to the west. "We'll meet here in half a day," Tian Guangming said. "Okay," Yun Tianxia readily agreed. The section from Beihe to Yunfu has been completely surrounded by the Jin family and the Immortal Court's Imperial Guards. The Imperial Guards and the Jin family began a thorough search, working tirelessly for 7 days straight, and finally narrowed down the search area by half. However, the remaining half is still enormous. The Jin family reported to Jinyu. "Miss, we have been searching for 7 days and still haven't found anything. Should we continue searching?" "Continue," Jinyu said coldly. "What if he ran away?" Someone voiced their concern. "Impossible. They're hiding right here. With such a comprehensive search, it would be a miracle if the two of them escaped." Jinyu shook his head, rejecting the claim. "Keep searching. Giving up now is exactly what Yun Tianxia wants. Let them succeed. I must catch him. The Yun family shouldn't exist anymore. They should have been wiped out long ago," Jinyu said coldly, insisting on his own ideas, his gaze icy. Just then, a sword beam shot from afar. Boom. The void exploded open, The sword light was extremely powerful, and it also carried a sound. Jinyu, you bitch. You actually chased after your own fiancé. You're a venomous spider, devouring people without spitting out the bones. Yun Tianxia's curses rang out, terrifying and making Jinyu's face turn extremely ugly. You're asking for death. Jinyu gritted her teeth, her pretty face icy cold, and attacked directly. Boom. Jinyu crushed the sword energy in one go. She stared coldly into the distance and said coldly, "Instead of hiding, you dare to provoke me. Let's see where you can run this time." Whoosh. Jinyu was very fast, covering an extremely long distance to catch up with Yun Tianxia. Seeing this, the Jin family members all followed closely behind, using their full speed to close the distance. After shooting out the sword, Yun Tianxia immediately turned and ran at lightning speed, but even so, he could feel Jinyu gradually closing the distance. This crazy woman is really powerful and fast. If I hadn't been prepared, I would have definitely been caught by you. Yun Tian cursed, and then immediately inscribed a restriction to traverse the void. This was something he learned from Tian Guangming, allowing him to traverse countless distances without being caught by Jinyu. Jinyu sneered. "Where can you run to? I will definitely catch you today and torture you severely." A fierce glint flashed in Jinyu's eyes, and he increased his speed again. Rumble. The hundreds of experts from the Jin family all followed Jinyu closely. Meanwhile, Tian Guangming also seduced the Celestial Court's Imperial Guards, led by the steward of the Northern Loch Emperor. He was also on the run, with the same goal as Yun Tianxia, the Yellow Springs Road of the corpse-driving sect. "I'm sending you on your way to the underworld." Chapter 603. Do you know what an instantaneous explosion is? Part 4. Die. A fierce shout, accompanied by a surge of celestial energy, erupted and slammed directly into Tian Guangming's body. This was a vicious attack from the steward of the Northern Loch Emperor, fueled by resentment. He managed to block Tian Guangming by getting the Imperial Guards to stop him. Although it was a pity that it wasn't Yun Tianxia, killing Tian Guangming would still be a way to vent his anger. As long as Yun Tianxia is not killed and is taken back to Emperor Baiqiu, everything will be fine. I'm already old, I should be enjoying my retirement, but because of the trouble you've caused, I have to go out and chase after you. Can you bear to see an old man like me running around like this? The butler sighed. He said he was old, but his actions were very fierce. He slapped Tian Guangming's chest with both palms. Click. Tian Guangming's chest immediately caved in. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and flew backward at an unimaginable speed. "Killing you so easily is too lenient," the butler sneered, convinced that Tian Guangming was doomed. Struck in the chest by his celestial immortal cultivation, Tian Guangming took the full force of the fierce blow. How could he not be dead? But in reality, Tian Guangming will not die. He deliberately took the hit. After being blocked, he came up with this way to escape. He withstood the blow head-on. To others, this was an attack belonging to the celestial immortal realm, and anyone who took it would surely die. But for Tian Guangming, it was child's play. During his month on Blackwater Island, Tian Guangming endured countless attacks like this and had long since grown accustomed to them. Even though he was hit in the chest, his sternum was completely broken, and his body was on the verge of collapse, Tian Guangming still managed to escape the encirclement. He then inscribed a restriction that allowed him to traverse the void and disappeared from the spot, leaving only a weak voice behind. "You old bastard, if you're afraid of dying, stay in the water and tuck your genitals in. That way you'll be fine. Don't chase me anymore. And thank you for sending me away. Live a few more years, old bastard. I'll come back to kill you when my cultivation improves." Tian Guangming's words were infuriating, making the steward tremble with rage. His eyes widened in fury as he looked at the crowd surrounding him, feeling a surge of anger that he couldn't vent, since it was Tian Guangming himself who had sent him flying. Who would have thought that Tian Guangming could escape after taking such a fierce blow? Shouldn't he have just collapsed? Chase him. I'll see how many lives you have today. If you survive one of my attacks, then I'll give you a few more. the butler said coldly, waving his hand as he immediately gave chase. The rest of the Imperial Guard immediately followed. And so, Tian Guangming led one group of people, and Yun Tianxia led another group of people, to the Yellow Springs Road of the corpse-driving sect. As they entered the territory of the corpse-driving sect, the Yin energy became denser. Jinyu stopped and looked at Yun Tianxia's disappearing figure in front of him, feeling a surge of anger. Continue the pursuit. Jinyu immediately decided to follow them in, waving his hand. Miss, this place used to be the ancestral home of the corpse-driving sect. It's very eerie, one of the subordinates said. If he can go in, why can't I? Jinyu sneered, completely unafraid. Despite being a woman, Jinyu was more manly than any man when it came to doing things. Boom. With unstoppable momentum, Jinyu charged straight in. The men behind him exchanged glances and had no choice but to follow him inside. Meanwhile, Tian Guangming arrived here with the Celestial Court's Imperial Guards and steward. Without a second thought, the steward led the Celestial Court's Imperial Guards inside. With over 1,000 of us, are we afraid of these demons and monsters? In the road to the underworld, Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia met. Yun Tianxia was panting heavily, but aside from being very exhausted, he was otherwise fine. Tian Guangming was in a much worse state. He was still spitting out large amounts of blood, his chest was sunken, and his breath was weak, as if he could die at any moment. What's wrong with you? Yun Tianxia asked anxiously, startled. It's nothing, just a minor injury, Tian Guangming said casually. Yun Tianxia was speechless. You're about to die, and you call it a minor injury? Could you wipe the blood from the corner of your mouth before you say that? Yun Tianxia complained. It's all right, I'll take a nap first. I've lured them here, so you can kill them all. I'll be fine when I wake up, so don't worry about me, Tian Guangming said weakly. As soon as he finished speaking, he collapsed to the ground and fell into shallow breathing. Without close inspection, it looks like a corpse, devoid of any vitality. Yun Tianxia blinked and said speechlessly, "You really do fall asleep right away." Next, many people appeared from all directions. There are members of the Kim family, led by Kim Yu. The Celestial Guards, led by the Northern Loch Emperor, completely surrounded Yun Tianxia and Tian Guangming. Run. Why aren't you running anymore? Jinyu sneered. This person is finally dead. I've never seen anyone run this far after taking my strongest attack. The butler smiled smugly as he saw Tian Guangming lying on the ground, assuming he was dead. In reality, Tian Guangming's face was deathly pale, his body was covered in blood, and his breath was so weak that it could be extinguished at any moment, just like someone on the verge of death. Jinyu didn't even look at the bright sky. In her eyes, there was only the clouds above. The butler felt the same way. Tian Guangming was now lying on the ground, breathing weakly, death was approaching, and there was nothing to care about. Moreover, his goal for this trip was to capture Yun Tianxia alive. Yun Tianxia, who was being stared at by everyone, showed no fear whatsoever. Instead, he smiled mysteriously and said, "Aren't you curious why we led you here?" Upon hearing this, Jin Yuha and the butler frowned, and after thinking about it carefully, they were immediately startled. It seems we've been tricked. But instead of retreating, they strode forward, closing in on Yun Tianxia. No matter what your schemes are, killing you will end everything, Jinyu said coldly. We can't kill him. Emperor Baichio wants to capture him alive and then kill him in front of Lord Zhenyun, Steward Li immediately said, stopping Jinyu. Jinyu's eyes flashed, and he said, "Then I won't kill you, but breaking your legs is acceptable, right?" The butler said indifferently, "I just want him to live. As for how he lives, that doesn't matter." "Fine, I'll cripple him and break his limbs," Jinyu said coldly, his eyes filled with icy light. Yun Tianxia watched as the approaching people, the Jin family members, the Imperial Guards, all entered the Great Destruction formation he had set up. He smiled happily and asked, "Do you know what an instantaneous explosion is?" Jinyu frowned and said coldly, "I don't know what instantaneous explosion means, but I know you're going to die. Wrong, it's you who's going to die. Enjoy the explosive feast I've prepared for you. Yun Tianxia laughed happily and activated the Great Annihilation Formation. Rumble. Chapter 604 I Loved You. Part 5. The Great Destruction Formation set up by Yun Tianxia is hidden beneath the eerie Yellow Springs Road, and those who enter will not be able to sense it at all unless they observe carefully. Have Jin Yu and others observed the situation carefully? No. Their target has always been Yun Tianxia, and all their attention has been drawn to him. They didn't even notice when the Great Destruction Formation was activated until the explosion, at which point their expressions changed drastically, and they looked around in horror. We've fallen into their trap. Jin Yu's expression changed drastically, his eyes flashing with cold light as he stared at Yun Tianxia with extreme ruthlessness. Let's go. The butler's first instinct was to retreat. However, Jin Yu advanced instead of retreating, charging out instantly and shouting, "Why run? Kill Yun Tianxia, and without someone to control this formation, how powerful can it be?" Jin Yu acted decisively, charging out directly, determined to kill Yun Tianxia even at the cost of serious injury. Seeing this, the steward gritted his teeth and rushed over, no longer caring about what Emperor Baiqiu had said about living under the heavens. The most urgent task now is to kill Yun Tianxia and get out of this crisis. Thousands of people stood on the Great Annihilation Formation. As the formation erupted, everyone felt a chilling sense of dread that swept over them. Even true immortals at the ninth heaven sensed impending doom. So at this moment, everyone is running outside. No one wants to die. Jin Yu and the butler rushed towards Yun Tianxia, while everyone else tried to escape, creating chaos. The Great Destruction Formation continued to sweep across the surroundings, its intense aura instantly killing those who tried to escape. Yun Tianxia looked at Jin Yu and the butler charging towards him and sneered. I set up this grand formation, which consumed a lot of resources. Did you think this was all the power it was? Boom. Jin Yu did not answer. He drew his long sword, his eyes flashing with a cold light, and all his aura and conviction were poured into this one strike. Die. This is all of Jin Yu's beliefs, which when put together, are to kill Yun Tianxia. The butler was not to be outdone. His withered hand slammed down, a huge palm instantly engulfing Yun Tianxia, giving him no chance to escape. Die! The butler roared, his voice like it had sprung from the deepest hell, sending chills down everyone's spines. All these attacks were massive and powerful, with surging immortal energy sweeping all around, like a 100-meter-high wave rising on the sea, creating a feeling of raging waves. But Yun Tianxia remained unmoved. No matter how turbulent the waves or how murderous aura raged, he remained steadfast and unyielding. Yun Tianxia merely sneered and said, "All your counterattacks are futile. Do you know what extreme terror is?" Rumble. In that instant, an endless aura of destruction surged forth from beneath the road to the underworld. Devastating. The power of the Great Annihilation Formation lies in its ability to gather the aura of destruction. Annihilation, an energy that annihilates everything, is a top-tier attack ability, and the aura of annihilation that erupted from it swept away Jin Yu and the butler in an instant. Bang! Bang! The two were shocked and, unsurprisingly, were swept away, their attacks shattered. Puff! Jin Yu and his butler coughed up blood and fell heavily to the ground. Their bodies trembled violently, and they were covered in wounds, barely clinging to life. The aura of destruction severely injured Jin Yu and the butler with a single blow, bringing them to the brink of death and causing them to vomit blood continuously. The old butler couldn't hold on any longer and died unwillingly. Jin Yu lay on the ground, spitting out blood that stained his snow-white neck. His beautiful face turned deathly pale as he looked around in despair. The Jin family and the Imperial Guards were all murdered. An aura of destruction erupted, sweeping away everything in its vicinity and causing everyone to tremble with fear. People were constantly being killed, some were cut in half at the waist, and the blood flowed into rivers, staining the road to the underworld red and making the surrounding energy even more intense. Jin Yu closed her eyes in despair, knowing she had failed. Her plan, her ambition, had utterly failed. Da-da-da. Yun Tianxia walked over, stood in front of Jin Yu, then squatted down and watched silently. Jin Yu opened her eyes and coughed, with fresh blood seeping out continuously. She was like a delicate flower, rapidly withering away. You won, Jin Yu said weakly. Yun Tianxia looked at Jin Yu. Now that she was close to death, her hatred had gradually faded. He said calmly, if you had accepted me from the beginning, we should be living happily together now. Jin Yu looked at Yun Tianxia, a hint of regret appearing in his eyes. I liked you. When I was at my lowest point, your family took the initiative to propose marriage. Even though my father told me that your intentions were impure, I still agreed. It was because I liked you back then, Yun Tianxia said with a complicated expression. Who would have thought that what I once liked would turn out like this? Then can you spare me? Jin Yu pleaded. No way. Yun Tianxia immediately rejected the idea. Jin Yu looked at Yun Tianxia in despair. You've never liked me from beginning to end. You used me at first, and now you want to kill me. Even if I let you go, you'll still want to kill me, Yun Tianxia said calmly. I used to like you, but that was in the past. The further I went, the colder and more unfamiliar you became. The you I liked was a facade you wore to lure me in. The real you is so cold that it frightens me. Yun Tianxia sighed. I can become the person you like, I can be your wife, bear your children, and never betray you for the rest of my life. I can do it, Jin Yu pleaded. No need. I am not the same person I used to be. The joy of my youth has faded away. We should say goodbye. Yun Tianxia said coldly, got up and left without even glancing at Jin Yu. No. Don't abandon me. Jin Yu pleaded. However, Yun Tianxia was extremely indifferent, leaving without even turning his head. Once outside the range of the Great Annihilation Formation, Yun Tianxia directly detonated it. Explosion instantly. Boom. Within this area, thousands of immortals died instantly, their blood staining the earth red. At this moment, Yun Tianxia breathed a long sigh of relief. The pursuers were finally dealt with. He glanced at Tian Guangming, who was sleeping on the ground, and led him away from the Yellow Springs Road of the corpse-driving sect. After Yun Tianxia left with Tian Guangming, the road to the underworld returned to silence. The air was thick with eerie, chilling atmosphere. When the wind blew, it sounded like ghosts howling and wolves wailing, creating a truly terrifying scene. At the site of the Great Destruction Formation, thick blood began to seep deep into the earth. Deep underground, a corpse was in contact with the blood, and as the blood entered its body, the corpse began to revive. Who I am? Where am I? I'm already dead, how can I come back to life? A series of sounds echoed all around. The corpse revived from the ground and rushed out of the depths of the earth, arriving at the road to the underworld. Chapter 605 The Heart of the Demon God. Part 1. A burly figure stumbled out of the Yellow Springs Road. His body was stiff at first, but it gradually got better after he moved around more. This is a man with a weathered face, buried deep underground, his body uncorrupted, now awakened and brought back to life. But he doesn't remember anything. I should find my memories. The man frowned deeply, looking around at the vast world, but he had nowhere to go. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A blood-red pocket watch appeared before him. The Heavenly Bank can trade anything, as long as you can afford the price. The blood-red pocket watch sent a message, prompting the man to reach out and grasp it. His expression was somewhat bewildered. He didn't crush it, but instead took the pocket watch and stumbled away. The Great Destruction Formation jointly set up by Yun Tianxia and Tian Guangming annihilated the Jin family and the Imperial Guard's pursuit in one fell swoop, killing thousands of people. This fierce achievement shocked the people of the northern underworld. Everyone originally thought that Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia were doomed to die, or at least be arrested. No one expected that they would actually kill all the pursuing enemies. The news struck like a thunderbolt, shaking the very foundations of everyone present. It was especially devastating for Emperor Baiqiu, who, upon hearing it, coughed up blood and roared in grief and rage. I will kill you. I will slaughter the Yun family. He was already under immense pressure after losing 30,000 imperial guards in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. If it weren't for someone protecting him from above, he would already be under investigation and disciplined. The loss of several thousand imperial guards is a significant blow, and Emperor Baiqiu truly harbors deep hatred for Yun Tianxia, second only to Li Xiandao. Wait a few more days, until Master Qianhe arrives, then join forces with the Jin family to strike together. The entire Yun family will die, Emperor Baiqiu said coldly. He's waiting for someone. Celestial Master. The housekeeper said that Master Qianhe would come in 10 days, and now 7 days have passed, so there are still 3 days left. The Northern Loch Emperor only needs to be patient for 3 more days. When they all attack together, the Yun family only has the Yun Mansion Lord and at most the Heavenly Spirit Immortal. They cannot withstand the siege of the 3 families. 3 days from now will be the day the Yun family is destroyed. Emperor Baiqiu swallowed his anger, like a wounded tiger licking its wounds, his fierce eyes fixed on the enemy, waiting for the right moment to pounce and kill with one blow. At that moment, Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia were resting in an inn in a riverside town. Having killed their pursuers, Yun Tianxia's route home was now smooth and unobstructed. However, he did not return immediately but instead took the unconscious Tian Guangming and stayed at an inn in a nearby town. Throughout the night, Tian Guangming continuously repaired his injuries. Yun Tianxia witnessed this firsthand, and it only took him 1 night to go from being on the verge of death to being full of energy. The sun rose as usual the next day, and Tian Guangming opened his eyes, saw Yun Tianxia, stretched, stood up comfortably, and asked, "How did it go? Did the Great Annihilation Formation work?" Yun Tianxia said, "It will definitely work. The pursuers have all been killed in the trap." "Well done. I feel like I'm about to break through." Tian Guangming checked his body. Satisfied. Yun Tianxia asked in surprise, "What kind of monster are you? How did you recover from such a serious injury overnight?" Tian Guangming said smugly, "This is my skill. As long as it's not someone who is too far beyond my level who hits me, I can recover from even the most serious injuries very quickly." Awesome. Yun Tianxia gave a thumbs up, genuinely feeling envious. "What do we do now?" Tian Guangming asked. "Let's go back. No one is chasing us anymore. Emperor Baiqiu didn't personally intervene, so no one will stop us when we return. With my father at the Yun Mansion, we can break through to the celestial immortal realm in peace," Yun Tianxia said. "All right, let's go then." Tian Guangming nodded. Although he didn't break through to the celestial immortal realm after this beating, he had reached a critical point. He would definitely be able to break through after a period of seclusion. The two immediately checked out of the hotel and left the town. On their way out of the town, the 2 men brushed past a man with a weathered face. Inside the Heaven and Earth Bank, Li Xiandao opened his eyes, and the 6 Taoists around him fell silent at that moment. They revealed all their true immortal laws, which were completely absorbed by Li Xiandao. In 7 days, Li Xiandao absorbed all the true immortal laws from the 6 people, and 1,000,000 true immortal laws had accumulated in his body. The dense, powerful laws of true immortality had permeated Li Xiandao's 9 heavens and 10 earths, forming a vast and dense array. "It's time for me to break through to the celestial immortal realm," Li Xiandao remarked. Once Li Xiandao breaks through to the celestial immortal realm and transforms into the 1,000,000 celestial immortal laws, his strength will increase infinitely with continued comprehension, reaching a terrifying level. It has been almost 2 months since Li Xiandao entered the immortal realm. He has been patiently enduring, reflecting, and accumulating experience. Only now has he gained some confidence. After bidding farewell to the 6 Taoists, Li Xiandao left the inheritance hall and returned to the trading hall. Having not seen Xiao Qi for a long time, Li Xiandao missed her a bit. Since there was no one else in the Heaven and Earth Money House, Li Xiandao took Xiao Qi's hand, hugged her, and stayed there quietly for a while. Xiao Qi blushed as Li Xiandao hugged her, and it took her a while to break free. She said, "During your seclusion, I sorted out the contracts of the immortal realm and discovered some interesting things. Also, we have a new and very special guest. Li Xiandao paused for a moment, then asked, "What kind of contract is interesting? Also, what's so special about this new guest?" Li Xiandao asked Xiao Qi. "Let's talk about them one by one. The interesting contract comes from the Jin family, from the Jin family patriarch, named Jin Pinmei," Xiao Qi said. "No gold grade." Li Xiandao blinked. "What's wrong?" Xiao Qi asked Li Xiandao, puzzled. "It's nothing, I just think this name is nice and unique," Li Xiandao said seriously. "This name isn't good. I find it hard to pronounce," Xiao Qi said, shaking her head. "Changing just 2 characters will make it easier to pronounce," Li Xiandao muttered. Xiao Qi didn't want to get into this with Li Xiandao, so she said, "This ancestor of the Jin family borrowed a demon god's heart from our heaven and earth bank, promising to return it in 10,000 years. Now he's broken his promise and doesn't intend to return the demon god's heart." "Why did he borrow the demon god's heart?" Li Xiandao asked. "If the demon god's heart was lent to him for 10,000 years, then he must have paid a huge price." Li Xiandao wanted to know exactly what he had paid. Xiao Qi said, "He mortgaged his soul to the Heaven and Earth Bank." Li Xiandao's eyes lit up, and he asked, "Then where is his soul now?" Chapter 606, A Bizarre Story. Part 2. Jin Pin did not pledge his soul essence to the Heaven and Earth Bank. Once Li Xiandao controlled his soul essence, his life and death would be in Li Xiandao's control. Jin Pinmei is the ancestor of the Jin family, so his strength must be very powerful. Even if he doesn't break through to the celestial immortal realm, he should be at the peak of the celestial immortal level. By controlling the essence of his soul, Li Xiandao could control his life and death. Xiao Qi said, "Jin Pinmei's soul essence is in my hands. The reason he has been unable to break through to the celestial immortal realm is because the core of his soul essence is in our Heaven and Earth Bank. Once we obtain this part of the soul essence, he will definitely be able to make a breakthrough." Li Xiandao smiled knowingly and said, "Then do you think he would become my dog for the sake of his own original soul?" Xiao Qi nodded seriously and said, "Definitely. Give me his original soul, and I will deal with him later. He owes money and refuses to pay it back. His descendants almost killed Tian Guangming. He simply doesn't respect my Heaven and Earth Bank." Li Xiandao sneered. Xiao Qi handed over the essence of her soul to Li Xiandao. "This essence of the soul is milky white, very beautiful to hold in your hand, and represents the purest and most beautiful thing in a person's soul. Therefore, lacking this essential soul essence, Jin Pinmei is unable to break through the celestial immortal realm and enter the next realm." Li Xiandao examined it carefully, then casually put it away, saying, "You were just saying that the new guest is special?" Little Qi nodded his little head and said, "This new guest is a dead person." Li Xiandao was taken aback and looked at Xiao Qi in confusion. "A dead person?" "Yes, dead people." Xiao Qi nodded. "How did a dead person get into the Heaven and Earth Bank?" "Don't try to fool me," Li Xiandao said irritably. "This new customer hasn't entered the Heaven and Earth Bank yet. He only took our pocket watch, he hasn't crushed it yet," Xiao Qi explained. "Excuse me, beautiful Ms. Xiao Qi, how can a dead person take our pocket watch?" Li Xiandao asked Xiao Qi. "The dead have come back to life," Xiao Qi said with a smile. "Then it's not called a dead person anymore," Li Xiandao said irritably. "No, he's still a dead man." Xiao Qi shook her head seriously. Li Xiandao looked at Xiao Qi with interest and asked, "Then tell me, beautiful Ms. Xiao Qi, what exactly is going on with this dead person?" "Since you asked so sincerely, I'll reluctantly tell you," Xiao Qi coughed and then said in a serious tone. Li Xiandao looked at the adorable woman who had become teacher Xiao Qi in his eyes at this moment, with a hint of doting. "When an immortal dies, do you know what the possible outcomes are?" Xiao Qi asked Li Xian. "I don't know, please enlighten me, teacher Xiao Qi." Li Xiandao shook his head, humbly seeking guidance. "When an immortal dies, there are generally a few changes that occur. Xiao Qi adopted the demeanor of a teacher and began to instruct Xiandao. First, since this immortal died of natural causes, his soul will naturally return to silence, return to heaven and earth, and dissipate into nothingness. However, his body will not decay. It will remain buried deep underground and will not rot for 100,000 years. The higher the immortal's realm, the longer this period will be. Secondly, this immortal was killed. Either their body was shattered and their soul destroyed, leaving no trace. But if they still retain a complete body, simply destroying the soul is the best option for corpse refining. Thirdly, this immortal made complete preparations before his death, facing death with a new purpose, intending to live a second life. Xiao Qi spoke eloquently, displaying the demeanor of a teacher. Xiandao suddenly realized and said, "Thank you for your explanation, Teacher Xiao Qi, but I still don't understand what our guest has to do with these things." Xiao Qi rolled her eyes at Xiandao, annoyed, and said, "I haven't gotten to this point yet. Are you going to listen or not?" "Listen, listen." Xiandao nodded hurriedly. "Listen carefully, don't be all smiles and joking around," Teacher Xiao Qi reprimanded Xiandao sternly. Xiandao became obedient this time. Our guest falls into the third category, living towards death. He has already died, buried himself deep underground, and is constantly seeking life within death, Xiao Qi said. "Amazing." Xiandao gave a thumbs up. Those who can face death and live are all peerless geniuses. But he encountered the corpse-driving sect, who dragged him out from the depths of the earth, Xiao Qi said, panting heavily. "And then?" Xiandao asked. "Then he was used as the perfect material for the corpse king, and they began to refine him. All sorts of formations and things were used to refine him into an invincible corpse king." Xiao Qi shook her head, feeling sorry for the man. This. Xiandao was speechless. A person who lived towards death was being ruined like this, being refined into a corpse king. Is this something a human would do? Is someone who can face death with a will no more powerful than the corpse king? What happened next? Xiandao asked Xiao Qi, now intrigued by this new guest. Then, before the corpse-driving sect could even see their corpse king emerge and wreak havoc, they were destroyed by the celestial court because they were universally hated. This corpse king was buried deep underground, never to see the light of day, Xiao Qi said. Good riddance. Xiandao fully supported the celestial court in doing this. Stealing other people's corpses, or the corpses of their predecessors or elders, to refine corpses and expand one's own territory, it would be unreasonable for such people not to be wiped out. Although Xiandao had many conflicts with the celestial court, he still had to praise the celestial court in this matter. What happened next? Xiandao couldn't wait to know what was wrong with this person who was living on the brink of death. And then, Xiao Qi smiled calmly. 50,000 years passed after that, and this person remained in a state of death until 1 day ago. What happened a day ago? Xiandao couldn't help but ask. Your two subordinates, Tian Guangming and Yun Tianxia, set up a large formation on the Yellow Springs Road, the ancestral land of the corpse-driving sect, and killed thousands of immortals in one fell swoop. Their corpses were all pulverized, and then their blood flowed deep underground and was absorbed by him, Xiao Qi said. And then he came back to life? Xiandao asked in surprise. No. Xiao Qi replied crisply. However, he woke up, but lost all his memories, and his body is still full of death energy, so he is not a living person now, but a dead person, Xiao Qi added. Is it really that bizarre? Xiandao asked in surprise. Yeah, isn't it bizarre? I was also very surprised when I met this guest. It's just too bizarre, Xiao Qi exclaimed in surprise. Is this guest any more powerful now? Xiandao asked. I don't know. He hasn't crushed the pocket watch yet. That's all I can understand for now, Xiao Qi said, shaking her head. Hurry up and crush the pocket watch. I'm still waiting to see a living dead man, Xiandao said expectantly. Chapter 607 Celestial Immortal Realm. Part 3. Li Xiandao had been looking forward to this guest's arrival, but he couldn't force him to come unless he crushed the blood-red pocket watch. So after understanding the situation, Li Xiandao parted ways with Xiao Qi and entered the inheritance hall alone once again. This time, Li Xiandao is about to break through to the celestial immortal realm. Having comprehended the laws of 1,000,000 true immortals, Li Xiandao is incredibly powerful. This power allows him to sweep through the true immortal realm without any problem. But Li Xiandao was still not satisfied. True immortals of the northern underworld can only be considered to have glimpsed the basics. Celestial immortals are the true fighting force of the northern underworld. Once Li Xiandao breaks through to the celestial immortal realm, he can unleash his full potential and fully expand his business in the northern underworld. I've been in the immortal realm for almost 2 months now, and I've been patiently waiting. Now, I'm just one breakthrough away from bringing the heavenly bank back to the immortal realm. Therefore, Li Xiandao must break through to the celestial immortal realm. Upon entering the inheritance hall this time, Li Xiandao summoned several people who had previously taught him the true immortal laws, along with some remnant souls from other tombs, bringing the total to 49 people. 49 people formed a large formation, surrounding Li Xiandao. Each person was talking about their breakthrough insights, which were chaotic and disorderly, making it impossible to understand what they were saying. But Li Xiandao clearly understood everyone's insights. His talent automatically corrected these chaotic and disordered voices, forming insights that Li Xiandao could understand and which entered the depths of his soul. In this way, Li Xiandao combined the Tao of 49 people and took a step towards his own path to becoming a celestial immortal. True immortal, the first step to becoming an immortal, signifies that all things have come true, representing that the cultivator has reached a relatively profound realm and has been able to shed the mortal body. However, the celestial immortals after the true immortals are the truly powerful ones. Celestial immortals possess immortal cultivation and eternal lifespan, living for hundreds of thousands of years and witnessing countless eras. Celestial beings possess immortal souls and indestructible bodies, capable of destroying heaven and earth. The celestial immortal is the second step in the immortal realm, but it is also the starting point for an immortal's power. Those who are powerful at the celestial immortal level will most likely remain dominant and continue to crush their opponents. Therefore, being a celestial immortal is a very powerful starting point. Those who perform well in this realm will be able to glimpse the supreme realm. Most people break through with tens of thousands of true immortal laws. Some geniuses break through with close to 100,000 true immortal laws, and unparalleled geniuses break through with hundreds of thousands of true immortal laws. Throughout history, there have been very few people like Li Xiandao who have broken through to the level of 1,000,000 true immortal laws. These people all reach the limit of their lifespan, spend their entire lives comprehending, and then break through in one fell swoop. However, Li Xiandao was different. He comprehended 1,000,000 true immortal laws in less than 2 months, reaching his limit before breaking through. If Li Xiandao were given 10 years, he could potentially accumulate tens of millions of true immortal laws. But that was meaningless to Li Xiandao. He already had 19 great worlds, and once these 19 great worlds were developed, they would definitely be a strong support for Li Xiandao. He no longer needs to comprehend the myriad laws of true immortals. At this moment, Li Xiandao was undergoing a transformation, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. His true energy was burning fiercely, and he absorbed the rich immortal energy, which all flowed into his body. His pores opened, his veins expanded, and his energy became incredibly robust. Vast amounts of immortal energy flowed into Li Xiandao's dantian through his pores and veins. It rolled on and entered the 19 great worlds, constantly nourishing them. All of this was preparation that Li Xiandao made before his breakthrough. He wasn't in a hurry. For 3 whole days, he was accumulating energy. He had already absorbed all the immortal energy in the heaven and earth bank and connected it to the outside world. Fortunately, this immortal energy dragon vein was very powerful, which replenished what Li Xiandao needed. Rumble. The surging immortal energy was drained, and Li Xiandao frantically absorbed it. After accumulating enough, he carried a massive amount of immortal energy and began to attempt to break through the threshold of the heavenly immortal realm. Bang! The threshold of the celestial immortal realm trembled violently and cracked under Li Xiandao's impact, as if a crack had appeared, giving Li Xiandao a glimmer of hope. Bang bang bang. Li Xiandao's fierce impact shattered the threshold of the celestial immortal realm. Rumble. A terrifying power surged within Li Xiandao's body, and his soul was elevated at that moment. Li Xiandao entered the celestial immortal realm. While Li Xiandao entered the celestial immortal realm, Emperor Baiqiu finally welcomed the arrival of Celestial River Immortal. Tianhe Shongren had the same cultivation level as him, or even a bit higher. He was a capable subordinate of the Northern Loch Emperor, with a fierce aura and bulging muscles all over his body. He didn't look like a Taoist priest, but rather like a butcher or blacksmith. You've finally arrived. Upon seeing Tianhe Shongren, the Northern Loch Emperor seemed to have seen a close relative, grabbing his arm and trembling as he spoke. This trembling is the release of long-suppressed anger. His son was killed by Yuan Tianxia, and his imperial guards were massacred, but he could not make a move that would alert the enemy. He remained patient and waited for the arrival of the Heavenly River Immortal. Now that Master Tianhe has arrived, we can take revenge, kill our enemies, and slaughter the entire Yuan family. The Northern Loch Emperor will make them pay for this blood debt. Why are you crying so bitterly? Master Tianhe asked, frowning. My life is so miserable. The Northern Loch Emperor couldn't help but want to cry his heart out when he thought about what he had been through recently. They went to the 9 heavens and 10 earths, but were blocked and killed by Li Xiandao. He himself was also seriously injured, and his entire army was wiped out, suffering heavy losses. In the northern underworld of the immortal realm, his son was murdered again, and the steward he sent out with the imperial guards was also tricked and killed by Yuan Tianxia. The successive blows made Emperor Baiqiu so angry that his head ached. Now, when Tianhe Shongren asked him, he really wanted to cry. Don't be afraid, I'll avenge you. We'll go and wipe out this Yuan family now. How dare they attack someone from my celestial court? They're tired of living. Venerable Tianhe said forcefully, patting his chest. I contacted the ancestor of the Jin family. With the 3 of us working together, there's no chance of failure, Emperor Baiqiu immediately said. And contacting outsiders? Master Tianhe frowned. The Jin family and the Yuan family were originally related by marriage, but now that the eldest daughter of the Jin family has been killed by that good-for-nothing young master of the Yuan family, they are now like oil and water. Let's win them over and let them be the ones to die, the Northern Loch Emperor said coldly. After careful consideration, Master Tianhe nodded and said, what you said makes sense. Let them take the lead and be the ones to die. Shall we go and meet up with the Jin family's patriarch now? Emperor Baiqiu suggested. Where are they? Master Tianhe asked. Right on the border of Yuan Mansion, after the eldest daughter of the Jin family, who was at the heavenly immortal realm, was killed, she was completely enraged and surrounded Yuan Mansion, not allowing a single person to escape, and demanding that they all perish with her, said Emperor Baiqiu. All right, let's go see this patriarch of the Jin family now. What's his name? Master Tianhe asked. No gold-grade item, said Emperor Baiqiu. What a terrible name. Master Tianhe frowned and scoffed. Chapter 608 I have a question for my master. Part 1. The Northern Underworld, the Jin family. The Jin family's ancestral home is on a lake, where one can leisurely enjoy the sea of clouds while boating. The Jin family's ancestor, Jin Pinmei, was such an old man. He now spends his days either fishing or sunbathing, and his aged appearance shows that he hasn't practiced any spiritual cultivation in a long time. Currently, his cultivation level is at the peak of the celestial immortal realm. In fact, he had already broken through to the peak of the celestial immortal realm 10,000 years ago. In the past 10,000 years, no matter how hard he tried, he could not break through, so Jin Pinmei gave up. He chose to give up spiritual practice, instead sailing the rivers and seas, keeping company with the sun and moon, befriending the rivers and seas, and living a carefree life. Although Jin Pinmei's name isn't very auspicious, he has experienced a lot and seen many ups and downs, so he has long since learned to remain calm in the face of both honor and disgrace. His understanding of the laws of immortality, his comprehension of realms, and his state of mind all surpassed the realm of celestial immortals. But he just couldn't break through. Ultimately, Jean Pinmei knew the reason he couldn't break through. The purest essence of his soul wasn't within himself. He took it out to trade, and it ended up in the Tiendi money shop. Therefore he stopped cultivating, and since the heavenly treasury did not return this part of his soul's essence to him, he could not break through, and no one could help him. Why did I break the contract? Jean Pinmei now deeply regrets his past actions, feeling that he was really young and reckless. After obtaining the demon god's heart, he didn't want to return it immediately. He had tasted the huge benefits and was unwilling to give in. Now he thinks it was utterly foolish. People really need to suffer losses a few times before they realize how foolish they are, Jean Pinmei remarked. He sat alone in a small boat, a cup of turbid wine in hand, watching the autumn wind and moon over the river, waiting for the arrival of the Northern Loch Emperor and the heavenly river immortal. While I can still move around, I should do as much as I can for the Jean family. After this is over, I also want to see the beautiful scenery of the immortal realm. I can't die in this small northern underworld. Jean Pin sighed. The last thing he did for the Jean family was to destroy the Yun family and get on the good side of the celestial court. How things develop from here on out is up to them. Before long, two terrifying auras surged forth, sweeping across the heavens and earth, unaware that Emperor Baichio and Celestial River Venerable had arrived. Go, annihilate the Yun mansion. The Northern Loch Emperor didn't stop at all. His cold voice rang out and then vanished in an instant. Jean Pin didn't get up immediately. Instead, he soared into the sky and caught up with the two people. 3 peak celestial immortal experts rushed directly to the vicinity of the Cloud Mansion. Rumble. The terrifying aura spread and swept across the area, causing countless people along the way to look up in surprise. What happened? That's Emperor Baichio, and also Jean Pinmei, the ancestor of the Jean family. That unfamiliar aura is in no way inferior to theirs. It's just as powerful. Who exactly is this? These 3 people went in the direction of Yun Mansion. Countless people immediately turned their gaze toward the Yun residence. A major battle is about to break out. Lord Yun stood with his hands behind his back in front of the Yun residence, looking at the scene with a serious expression. Behind him stood the celestial immortal, Tian Guangming, Yun Tianxia, and a beautiful woman. She is the mother of Yun Tianxia. The servants of the Yun family have been dismissed. This great battle will inevitably affect innocent people. Whether we win or lose, it will cause a great uproar. Therefore, Madame Yun dismissed the servants directly. She looked firmly at her husband, believing that he could definitely do it. Tianling Immortal frowned and said, Emperor Baichio is using the death of his son to eliminate you and me. The Celestial Immortal didn't run away not because he was particularly loyal, but because he was absolutely calm and rational. He knew that if he ran away now, Lord Yun would be killed, and he would surely die. He and Emperor Baichio were not on good terms. In the northern underworld, he was Emperor Baichio's subordinate, but he would not listen to any orders and often disobeyed orders in name only. In addition, Blackwater Island was under his jurisdiction, and he was on good terms with Lord Yun, so he had enough confidence to disobey Emperor Baichio. But once Lord Yun is destroyed, he will be left alone and helpless. Under the oppression of Emperor Baichio, he will surely die a miserable death on the spot. So he didn't leave. He had planned this all along. Even without his son's involvement, he would have come anyway, Lord Yun said coldly. Father, what should we do now? Yun Tianxia asked with a frown. He felt guilty because he had killed Bei Kunming, which gave Emperor Baichio an excuse to send his army to attack and surround the Beifu Palace. 3 top experts came to kill his whole family. All of this was because of his impulsive act. Don't blame yourself, son. I'm very happy that you have your own abilities now. The Northern Loch Emperor and I have a deep-seated grudge, so this battle today was inevitable, Lord Yun said with a calm smile. Father, can we win? Yun Tianxia asked directly, his expression worried. I don't know. Lord Yun gave an answer, his brows furrowed. I can handle Emperor Baiqiu, but the key is whether Master Qianhe still has a gold rank. These two are definitely experts. A gold rank cultivator was already at the peak of the heavenly immortal realm 10,000 years ago. Even now, I don't know how powerful he is. If these two make a move, your father probably won't be able to handle it, said Immortal Tianling with concern. Jin Pin isn't very powerful. The people of Beiminjiu are well known for that. Lord Yun hesitated and said, Wait, if I fight them, you take your mother and leave first. Yun Tianxia looked at his father in shock and shook his head, saying, No. Listen to me, leave with your mother, then I will have no worries, Lord Yun said sternly. I disagree. Yun Tianxia stubbornly shook his head. I caused this mess, and I can't just leave it to my father to handle like before. I'm all grown up now, Yun Tianxia said firmly. Lord Yun and Lady Yun looked at their son, their hearts filled with countless emotions. Tell me, why are you all so separated, as if it were a matter of life and death? Tian Guangming looked at the people in front of him with a puzzled expression. Yun Tianxia looked at Tian Guangming and asked, Do you have a solution? Tian Guangming shook his head decisively. What can I do? This is the peak of the celestial immortal realm, and I haven't broken through yet. There's nothing I can do, so why are you interrupting? Tianling Immortal said coldly. Tian Guangming glanced at him and said, Just because I have no way out doesn't mean the people behind me have no way out. This Northern Loch Emperor is nothing. In front of my master, he has always been a loser. Yun Tianxia's eyes lit up, and he was so excited that he almost jumped up and said, Yes, 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 there's also the master is still here. What master? Tianling Immortal asked, frowning. My master is a supreme being. We have no way, but my master must have a way. I will ask my master now, Tian Guangming said proudly. I'd like to see who your master is, said the heavenly spirit Immortal coldly, clearly displeased with Tian Guangming's arrogant demeanor. Chapter 609 Kneel Down Before Me. Part 2. Chapter 609 Kneel Down Before Me. 2. Inside the Heaven and Earth Bank, Xiandao had just broken through to the celestial immortal realm and was transforming his body into true immortal laws. Even for a peerless genius, breaking through to the celestial immortal realm, the transformation of true immortal laws only amounts to a few 100,000. But Xiandao has 1,000,000 true immortal laws here, and it would be impossible for him to convert them in less than 100 years. Fortunately, Xiandao had the Heaven and Earth Bank, which contained the Time Palace. In the Time Palace, Xiandao burned 500 years of his lifespan, directly converting millions of true immortal laws into heavenly immortal laws. The moment Xiandao stepped out of the Hall of Time, he received a communication request from Tian Guangming. What's wrong? Xiandao asked. Master, help! Tian Guangming cried out. Xiandao calmly said, Explain clearly what exactly happened. Tian Guangming immediately told Xiandao what he knew. Xiandao suddenly realized that it was still the Northern Loch Emperor causing trouble. The feud between Emperor Baiqiu and us should come to an end, Xiandao murmured. Now that he has broken through to the celestial immortal realm and controls millions of celestial immortal laws, Xiandao is truly not afraid of the Northern Loch Emperor. Even if his cultivation level is not as high as that of Emperor Baiqiu, Xiandao's celestial immortal laws are not to be underestimated. Among the 3 people who came to kill the Yun family, is one named Jin Pin? Xiandao asked. Yes, it's the ancestor of the Jin family. According to them, he's extremely powerful, Tian Guangming nodded. Not just extremely powerful, but invincibly powerful. Among the 3, he should be the #1 expert, Tianling Immortal said coldly from the side. Upon hearing this, Xiandao said, Then why didn't you hand over this gold-grade item to me? Let them deal with the remaining 2. Tian Guangming, I grant you permission to represent me and deal with this gold-grade item. Did I go deal with Jin Pin? Tian Guangming was dumbfounded. The others were greatly disappointed when they heard this. This so-called master didn't dare to come out himself, and actually sent Tian Guangming, who hadn't even broken through to the celestial immortal realm, to deal with the Jin family patriarch, Jin Pinmei. Absurd. Lord Yun and Lady Yun both frowned deeply, feeling that this master was too outrageous. Yun Tianxia blinked, deeply puzzled. He felt that his master shouldn't be this kind of person. Why would he send Tian Guangming to deal with Jin Pinmei? Wasn't that just sending him to his death? The heavenly spirit immortal, who had always thought that the master of heavenly light was just a charlatan and not powerful at all, sneered. Your master sent you to your death. What a good master. He didn't dare to show himself and actually sent someone like you, who doesn't even have the heavenly immortal realm, to deal with a gold-ranked person. It's laughable. Hearing this taunt, Xiandao frowned and said coldly, Tian Guangming, go deal with Jin Pinmei. Don't say anything, just take out the blood-red pocket watch and make Jin Pinmei kneel down and obey your orders. Tian Guangming was dumbfounded and said, Is this all right? This Jin Pinmei is a master at the ancestor level. Would he kneel down in front of me? If he doesn't kneel, then he has no hope of living. Xiandao said coldly, and then ended the communication. This was Xiandao giving Jin Pin no chance. If he knelt down and obediently complied, then the breach of contract would be easier to resolve. If he doesn't kneel, Xiandao will personally deal with him. The contract of Tiandi Money Shop. No one is allowed to disobey. If you are given a chance but fail to seize it, then death is the only outcome. In front of the Yun residence, everyone's eyes were fixed on Tian Guangming. What did Master say? Yun Tianxia asked anxiously. What else can we say? They're just cowards who didn't dare to come, so we'll leave it to you to deal with, the heavenly spirit immortal mocked. Tian Guangming glanced coldly at Tianling immortal and snorted. You'll see what I said soon enough, so shut up now. You. Tianling immortal glared angrily at Tian Guangming. Before he could even get angry, 3 figures thundered in from the distant sky, their imposing aura like 3 demon gods crossing realms, inspiring fear and dread. Rumble. This powerful aura swept around, causing the air to spontaneously combust, and the raging flames made them appear like gods and demons. The middle-aged man with a gloomy face is Emperor Baiqiu, the man with a face full of scars is Master Qianhe, and the old man is Jin Pinmei. The 3 looked at Lord Yun and immortal Tianling, but they didn't care about Madame Yun, Yun Tianxia, or Tian Guangming. Only the Northern Loch Emperor glanced at Yun Tianxia a few times, his eyes filled with murderous intent that materialized, making Yun Tianxia feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, and very uncomfortable. Lord Yun, celestial immortal, come out and face your death, Emperor Baiqiu said coldly. The 2 sides faced off at a distance of 100 meters, their momentum unmatched, each exerting pressure on the other. This was a terrifying aura, one that should have been confronted by Lord Yun and immortal Tianling, but instead, Tian Guangming stepped forward. He stepped out, immediately disrupting the atmosphere. Emperor Baiqiu, Heavenly River Immortal, and Jin Pinmei all frowned as they looked at Tian Guangming. You, a mere brat who hasn't even broken through to the celestial immortal realm, dare to stand up and act like a hero? Emperor Baiqiu said coldly, his eyes filled with killing intent, his expression unchanged, showing no regard for Tian Guangming, who knew that Tian Guangming didn't care about him at all, and waved his hand and said, Shut up, I didn't come out to find you. If you have nothing to do, go stand aside. I came to find Jin Pinmei. Enraged by this tone, the Northern Loch Emperor glared at Tian Guangming and immediately tried to kill him. However, Jin Pin did not emerge. He remained composed, and although his face was aged, he was impeccably groomed and without any flaws. He wore a simple cloth robe and cloth shoes, and his hair was neatly combed. You were looking for me? Jin Pin didn't look at Tian Guangming. His expression was calm. There was no indifference, no murderous intent, no anger. All he had was calmness, and this calmness meant that he could not even look at the light of day. Tian Guangming didn't care about any of that. Seeing that Jin Pin hadn't come out, He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "You are Jean Pin? Very well, now I'll give you a chance. Kneel down." Silence. After Tian Guangming uttered these words, the scene fell silent. The Northern Loch Emperor, who was originally filled with murderous intent, has now dispelled it. In his eyes, Tian Guangming is now a fool. The Heavenly River Immortal looked at Tian Guangming with the eyes of someone looking at a fool, and shook his head regretfully. The Yun family watched awkwardly, not expecting Tian Guangming to actually say it. The Celestial Immortal scoffed, knowing that saying such a thing would be tantamount to courting death. Jean Pin, the person involved, didn't even blink. Even with his calm heart, a slight ripple couldn't help but appear. However, he didn't kill him. Instead, he sneered, "Why should I kneel down before you? What makes you think you can?" Everyone looked up at Tian Guangming, wondering what gave him the confidence to say such a thing. After all, Tian Guangming doesn't look like a fool. "I'm relying on this. I'll ask you one last time, will you kneel or not?" Tian Guangming took out a blood-red pocket watch from his pocket, spread it out, and asked calmly. Thump. Jean Pin didn't kneel down immediately. Instead, to everyone's astonishment, he knelt before Tian Guangming. Chapter 610 My Master is Li Xiandao. Part 1. Jean Pinmei felt deep regret after realizing he couldn't break through the barrier. He shouldn't have broken the contract with Tiendi Qianzhuang. If given the chance, he would give up everything to fulfill that contract. Unfortunately, 10,000 years have passed, and he is no longer able to repay his contract or contact the Heaven and Earth Bank. Therefore, he had given up hope. The Heaven and Earth Bank would never appear before his eyes. But now, he looked at the blood-red pocket watch in Tian Guangming's hand. The crimson light directly stimulated Jean Pinmei, causing his expression to change drastically. He became extremely excited, and his whole body trembled. The thing he had been longing for day and night had finally appeared. Even though the sky is bright at this moment, I am only a true immortal at the 9th heaven. Even if it were daylight, he could be forced to kneel down right now. He knelt down without hesitation. Dignity and face were nothing compared to the Heaven and Earth Bank. Therefore, at this moment, Jean Pin did not kneel before Tian Guangming. In front of the Yun residence, everyone stared blankly, wondering what was going on. The patriarch of the Jean family, Jean Pinmei, whose fame had spread for 10,000 years, actually knelt down before Tian Guangming. So decisive, so resolute, so incredible. The heavenly spirit immortal, who had been mocking him, was struck dumb, his eyes wide open in disbelief. Is all of this true? Even more incredulous were Emperor Baiqiu and Master Qianhe, their faces turning extremely pale. What are you doing? Emperor Baiqiu angrily rebuked Jean Pinmei. You knelt down before even being hit, and to a true immortal at the 9th heaven? Where is your dignity? Tianhe Shongren sneered. These two are furious, especially Tianhe Shongren. He originally didn't want Jean Pinmei to get involved, but when he found that Jean Pinmei's cultivation was very strong, he felt troubled and pressured, so he agreed. But now, Jean Pinmei's kneeling has ignited his dissatisfaction. The Northern Loch Emperor was also furious. I summoned you here to destroy the Yun mansion. With your powerful cultivation, you have reigned supreme in the Northern Underworld for so long. How could you kneel down to a true immortal at the 9th heaven at this time? You're not only losing face, you're also damaging our morale. The Northern Loch Emperor glared angrily at Jean Pinmei, wishing he could kill him with his own hands right now. However, their anger did not affect Jean Pinmei at all. Jean Pinmei's eyes were fixed solely on the blood-red pocket watch. He paid no attention to anything else. What partners, what people from the Celestial Court, what future of the Jean family? He didn't care about any of these things. Jean Pin had no eyes for anything but the Heaven and Earth Bank. The joy of finding it again filled him with thoughts of pleasing Tian Guangming and finding out its whereabouts. So he knelt down, looked up at the bright sky, and asked tremblingly, Where did you get this pocket watch? My master gave it to me. Tian Guangming was brimming with confidence when he saw Jean Pin kneeling down so obediently. His worship of his master was off the charts, and he spoke with great pride. Your master. Jean Pin's eyes lit up as he excitedly looked at Tian Guangming. That's right, just as you think. That's why the master told you to kneel down, Tian Guangming nodded. He used his pocket watch as a token. I kneel down. I was very obedient. Master, please don't be angry. I was wrong. I am willing to accept punishment. Please forgive me, master. Jean Pin said anxiously, taking the initiative to lower his status and acknowledge Xiandao as his master. Those around him were completely bewildered by what he said, especially the celestial immortal, who had previously pretended to be a god to the Lord of Light in heaven and dared not come out, but now he was completely dumbfounded. This mysterious master never appeared. With just a word and a pocket watch, he made Jean Pin obediently kneel before Tian Guangming, so humble, willing to be a slave, and begging for forgiveness. How powerful must a person be to have such authority? Despite the vast distance, a name and a pocket watch were enough to intimidate a peak celestial immortal. Upon closer reflection, the heavenly spirit immortal's body trembled slightly, finding it unbelievable. This is terrifying. The Northern Loch Emperor and the Heavenly River Immortal were unaware of all this. They were now completely enraged. The battle hasn't even started yet, and you've already betrayed us, and so completely. Aren't you supposed to be powerful? How can you be so cowardly? Jean Pinmei, think about the Jean family. The mighty Jean family will be disgraced by your current actions, Emperor Baiqiu said, exasperated. You previously tried to establish a connection with my celestial court, but now you've severed your ties with it yourself, Celestial River Master sneered, threatening Jean Pinmei. Despite the threats from the two men, Jean Pin remained unmoved. He continued kneeling, determined not to get up until dawn. I have protected the Jean family for tens of thousands of years. They should be able to fend for themselves. I can't protect them forever, Jean Pin said coldly. He had originally planned to leave the Jean family after this matter was over, but now it was just a matter of time. You? What kind of bewitching potion have you been given? Who is this kid's master, that he can be an enemy of my celestial court? Venerable Tianhe roared in fury. Yes, who exactly is the master of this true immortal ninth heaven brat? What ability does he have to dare to be an enemy of my celestial court? You should think carefully. If the celestial court makes a move, it can crush all those who oppose it, and this brat's master is no exception. Emperor Baiqiu said angrily. These angry words made Tian Guangming frown, look at Emperor Baiqiu, and say coldly, my master is not afraid of your celestial court. Is that so? Then who is your master? Tell him to come out. The Northern Loch Emperor glared angrily at Tian Guangming, his aura boiling like thunder, booming loudly. He was extremely angry. If he hadn't been worried that Jean Pin hadn't attacked him, he would have killed Tian Guangming long ago. My master doesn't need to come out to anger you to death. Just say his name and you'll know. Tian Guangming sneered, looking at Emperor Baiqiu with disdain. Who is your master? I'd like to see who has such power that a mere name can enrage me to death. The Northern Loch Emperor's rage burned fiercely, extremely terrifying. His eyes stared at Tian Guangming as if he wanted to devour him, like a wounded beast that could suddenly lash out and kill at any moment. Everyone looked up at Tian Guangming, wondering who his owner was. Yun Tianxia's eyes lit up, and he felt proud. His master seemed to be very powerful and mysterious. He hadn't even come, yet he had caused such a big commotion. Emperor Baiqiu, my master is named Xiandao. Tian Guangming looked at Emperor Baiqiu with arrogance, smiled coldly, and uttered a name. Rumble. The Northern Loch Emperor instantly bristled, his entire being like a powder keg ignited, his aura bursting forth and soaring straight to the ninth heaven, shaking the surroundings and causing a fierce wind to rise. It's Xiandao, he deserves to die. He deserves to die. He deserves to die. Emperor Baiqiu roared, looking up at the sky and howling. He was in a frenzy, and his killing intent swept around him. Just as Tian Guangming said, a single name could make the Northern Loach Emperor furious. The Northern Loach Emperor is now completely enraged. His reason has been overwhelmed by anger, and he has become violent.